Welcome back. How's it going, Tim? I'm super excited.
Good.
Chicago's #1 property management live stream. Here we are, I think 5 weeks in a row. So thanks for sticking with me and the handful of people that are watching. Thanks for that as well, too. So crazy thing, I was, obviously I'm into the AI thing. I've been researching this. There's actually, everything with Clawbot bot that came out. There's actually a site. It's called Hire a Human. It's a place for AI agents to go and hire a human to do stuff. And I'm like, and there's stuff on there like, I want to hire humans to go on to my live stream and pretend they're my audience. So like maybe that's what we got to look into if we don't get thousands of people watching soon enough.
Well, I know that there has been already at least one case study where they had ChatGPT go and make $5 was the goal, and ChatGPT did have to. They gave it a budget and everything on a credit card, and it hired people off of Upwork. So I have seen that case study. So it's getting crazy.
Man, it is crazy. I can't wait. I was just thinking about this. When I go to the gym in the morning, that's the one time I don't have my phone in my hand, or I can't physically go check an email or call somebody or whatnot. And I was just thinking this morning, I'm like, man, like these are just crazy times we're living in. And we're going to look back at this, it's all kicked off of COVID. And then we got into this AI era a couple years later. It's like, man, the 2020s will be like, how is going to be like that point where just we got electricity or what, some crazier than any of those things. Cause I just imagine what's going to be happening in the next 10 years.
Yeah, no, it is. It's crazy, but I do have to ask: how do you can work out without music, or you can work out with the music at your gym, or what?
No, he has music. He has music at the gym, but okay. Sometimes it won't work, or it's like off for like a minute between songs or whatever. Or something. It's like I don't like that. I can't hear you hear your bones start cracking, and you hear too much of your own thoughts. Like I need the music in the background. So
no, for sure. I need something. They usually got pop on at my gym, so I end up just with headphones in and going from there. But no, AI is going to change some things, and if you want to go into, I think my biggest use case right now is on credit checks, or on applications. I don't know if you guys are using it yet, but we have programs that are checking pay stubs and making sure that they are real. And far better. Same thing with state IDs and stuff. And the AI is far better than the human eye at seeing that from our experience. I don't know what ways are you guys using it?
Yeah, so we have the software that does look at that, but every so often the software doesn't work unless they upload it originally. So just note that if you're using something. For us, once you submit the application, anything gets sent afterwards doesn't get scanned through. So we will run those through. I use Claude. I think some of my team uses Claude and Chat as well too. But to take a pay stub or multiple pay stubs is usually where you can find the errors and submit it to Claude and say, hey, do you see anything that makes this look fraudulent here? It's super valuable because it goes in, it does all the math. It gives you advice on. More than likely this person works for this big well-named company that we know, and they're not paying, they're probably using a professional payroll system and not a payroll. Like they'll even take the template and kind of criticize that compared to what maybe another Fortune 500 company might be using for their payroll. So super helpful in scanning that and just kind of like something seems off and letting them kind of either confirm you're right or point out what's wrong.
Yeah, I mean the unfortunate side of it is. And they're also using AI on their side too, so they're getting pay stubs made by AI, and it's almost as simple as just typing in "give me a pay stub" and make it look real. So you need something that has a database, and that's what it really is doing. It's going through a database and saying, hey, we've seen 100 Joel Osco pay stubs before, and this one isn't the way that they're formatted. It's going through what it has, or we know that Joel uses ADP or uses whatever the company is, or and vice versa, and sort of training it that way. So it's pretty cool that AI can do all that.
Yeah, we'll use it for that, and then we'll also use it for. I'm trying to think I just thought of something a second ago. The underwriting process, we'll just take a full application, like the PDF version of it, and just put it in there and say, hey, can you go online and see if there's anything crazy you find about this person and dig as deep as you can. Like we have a whole prompt we set up for it. So, and I guess anyone that is using AI, I've been referring this out. We use prompt cowboy. Because think about this: prompting or putting in a prompt in the chat is no different than you trying to communicate with your spouse, right? If what I'm trying to say to my spouse, half is in my head and half of it comes out, which is typical for me. It doesn't. I don't get the results I want. So you go to cowboy.ai and you start kind of mind dumping it, and you hit create prompt, and it'll help you create a full prompt that will really try to get done what you ultimately want to get done, and the results based on that. So have you used that? Have you used that site yet?
I haven't used that one, no. So that's a new one, but I can also say that, I mean, I've done a lot of research and a lot of training guides and stuff on prompt engine. Like it's crazy, but there's a good chance that, at least, I don't know how old your kids are, if you have kids, but my kid, I have a 2-year-old. There's a good chance that a top job when she's an adult, that she's going to college to learn how to prompt engineer, how to ask AI questions, because it's a science in itself almost to get it to spit out the right answers.
There's also a good chance that your grandkids might marry an AI bot. Like, there's who knows with that, where they're going, dude.
Yeah. I've heard things on that too.
So other ways, AI. Any other ways that landlords here in Chicago can use AI?
Offhand, I think right now the best is going to be that the other part of it, that we haven't played around with much, but I've seen people doing, the photo generation is getting really cool. So if you're posting your own listings and you want to show some, stuff that you would have paid someone $20 to do in the past, and put a living room set in there and make it look like, put a bed in there to make a vacant property look full, so the photos look a little bit better. That can all be done in AI now. Nano Banana from Gemini is really good, and there's a few other ones that I've used from OpenArt.ai, that can make some crazy things happen in your photos. So if for virtual staging, would be the other one that I think is good out there.
Yeah, the other thing that we've used it for this season, one thing I've been using it for a couple of years on, is I hate like cloudy day pictures. So it's just kind of maybe putting a blue sky in your picture. Or what we did this year is a handful of pictures came back. It snowed a lot in December, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of and maybe we didn't shovel right away because of vacant property, so it just didn't clean up right. So what we ended up doing is just really we kept the snow on the ground, but we just put a driveway in, just so you kind of see that there is a driveway there, or it makes it a little more presentable.
No, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah. Anything else that you can think of, or?
I mean, I mean, you and me are prone to a lot more of the AI that's built into some of the softwares, and I'm not too familiar with the self-managing softwares, even though I've been exploring a couple of them for a couple of side projects I'm working on. But you know, a lot of people use them for generating the description for a property, and
Mhm.
one thing I'll advise on is just make sure when you're asking for a description of a marketing property, to part of your prompt, to make sure that it avoids any fair housing violation. So I know we've had a couple crazy generated ones where it's like one was close to the church or family. You're not even supposed to put in your listings like great for a family. Like, you're violating fair
Mhm.
housing right there and then. And then the other one that this was a bad one. It basically said close to WIC Center, where it's like they give food stamps out. It's
Mhm.
like, oh man, it's like man, that is
Yeah,
not.
we do use it for that. I don't even think about it anymore, to be honest with you, because my team does it. But the one thing that, going back to prompt engineering, you really want to give it a basic layout of what the apartment has. I think the first time we attempted it, it just said, "Hey, we're write me a description for 920 West Adams, apartment one," and it made up stuff. But if you give it, hey, here are the photos which it can now, that's actually a new update as of 6 months ago. It can scan photos and videos and actually learn from them. So you give them the photos, you give it, hey, any details that you have, here's the amenities, etc. And you say, all right, now write this. It's much better. The better you prompt it, and then you can create a master prompt if you want to really dig into it, where it knows what questions to ask you, so it can get the best listing and things like that. So there's definitely different levels of it.
Yeah. So moving on, I guess one thing you and me were on a meeting earlier, and you said something that I wrote a note here to bring up later. Tenant insurance. Is that something you require all tenants to have, and do you recommend anyone, even if you're just got two properties, recommend landlords force their tenants to have?
So I'm going to be, I know this is where me and you I think will disagree, but as of right now, I don't. It's one thing is it tends to be very hard to track, and it's very time consuming. And we would get when we used to do it, we would get a tenant that signs up, and then a week later they cancel, and you're just fighting it the whole time. We do make the tenants initial on our lease that if they don't have insurance and something happens, we're not covering it. So that's the main thing that we do, and we encourage them to get it. But we stop forcing them with it just because it's became super hard to track, and then it does also you run into some claim issues as well. Like I think a lot of landlords think that it will replace their insurance, and it really doesn't. It protects their stuff, so it protects something that they do to the property. Um, if they punch a hole in the wall or something like that, it probably wouldn't cover it if they punched a hole in the wall. But if they fell into the wall, it would cover it. Because it can't be something that they did on purpose, or if the tenant just stops paying. So I think it has some gaps that some landlords don't require or don't realize that it has. But what's your? I know you guys do, I believe, right?
Yeah, so part of our move-in requirement, three things we require for move-in is proof utilities when their name, because that's another, like, after they move in, it's like, oh, you got to get them beforehand. Obviously, all the money, and then their insurance. And we run into the same issue. They cancel at some point. I imagine it's not that far after they move in, and because our true chase is then on the renewal side of things, or 12 months later when we think it renewed. So you could be added as an additional interest, but we don't get those as often as we're supposed to on those. And I'm not sure if that's a play by the tenants or whatnot, but we definitely, as additional interest, don't get you're supposed to get a notification on that. And now we require the liability piece. That's probably the more important thing to landlords. If the tenant starts a fire, then at least some of that falls on them if there's liability piece or someone gets hurt. Some of it, I guess. Obviously, your homeowners will kick in, but that will be something. That'd be something that I guess would be important to have. But I'll tell you this: we've only had a handful. I'll tell you this: I only know of a handful of claims over the last 20 years, and just say I only know a third of them. You're still only three handfuls of claims, managing 1,000+ doors for 2 decades. Where they come in handy, just kind of side note, whether have it or not, this is a way that we always, you always get that tenant that their fridge breaks or doesn't work, and it's right after they bought $400 of groceries that Thursday, right?
Yep.
And they owe you $500 of rent still, right? But
and that's exactly what's in our lease. Like we actually use that as the example. Like if the fridge goes out, that's an act of God, and we don't cover it. But if you have renter's insurance, it will. We don't, so that's something that we tell tenants when they're signing the lease. They have to read it in initial that they understand that, because I think that's when it's good. It's great for tenants' possessions, right? Something happened, you as a landlord aren't going to cover the tenant's possessions, whether it's the $400 of food or whether it's a flood happens and they had all their valuables in the basement and now thousands of dollars are gone because it flooded. Those things are what is important to the tenants. But in my opinion, I don't think the landlord necessarily gets as much out of it as I think that some of the industry thinks they do.
Yeah, no, I agree. The other thing that I've only learned in the last couple of years too was, in those crazy moments where maybe there's a fire in one unit, but everyone had to leave, or maybe the hot water went out and it's going to be 3 days before it gets fixed, or the heat is down or something like that. In those situations where you put someone up in a hotel, those things are supposed to be covered by the renter's insurance. I know for many years we covered that bill, or our clients covered that bill, or we worked with the client to cover that bill, when that was something that was totally insurable the whole time. Now, the one thing where we got burned on most recently was the tenant filed a claim. We actually put them up, and they're supposed to file a claim. Again, we were too late. This actually a couple years ago now, and they never reimbursed us. We had to chase them for that. So it's like they got the claim, and we never got reimbursed. So, but yeah, I don't know. The organization of it and trying to track it is pain in the butt. But I do think over time. Honestly, I don't 100% disagree with you, Tim, as far as the effectiveness or the value, right? Risk versus reward, or what the effort versus result. I just think a lot of owners on our side at least ask about it, and we kind of just made it part of our process.
Yep. And then I'm going to throw. Can I throw? I don't know if I can comment. Interesting. I normally can, but I was going to throw a comment because we talked about it last week. I had the podcast that we just released has Dorian on it, from Alpha Adjusting, over at the Housing Provider Show. And we actually have a good segment on that where we start talking about renters insurance and what his thoughts are on it. So a little self pitch there, but definitely check it out for a 45 minutes deep dive into insurance, which is I don't want to dig too deep into it because it's not that exciting of a topic, but Dorian makes it fun. So I'll let him, the expert, talk about it more than us.
Awesome.
Real quick, so we got a comment. What's your guys' experience? I'm not going to try to say your name, so I do apologize for that. But hey, guys, what's your experience with self-showing software in the northwest side of Chicago, Hermosa, Logan Square area? Do you guys use it at all, or?
Yeah, we do self-showings. We use it through the company that we've been using, Rent Engine. We used ShowMojo prior, and we use Rent Engine now. And we use them on buildings that there's no common area entrance. Obviously, we would never want to have access to a key that has access to other people's common areas. So if it's single family or something like that, we'll do it. Now, we don't do this as much in the city, but we have been, I guess, more so lately. We haven't had any problems with it. The security that's around it has been pretty good. We do require our leasing agents, our showing agents, to still stop by every couple of days, because the value in this for a leasing company is being able to be multiple places at one time, or Shiv, in your situation, being able to be at work and do it, but maybe you can't show at 4 o'clock because you're still at work. So the ability to show it whenever someone wants to see it, and then maybe able to, I think the important part is scooching by later on in the afternoon or the next morning to make sure everything's good. Now, I see a lot of owners that use them and they just have camera set up, which obviously solves a lot of what I'm saying. You don't have to run out there and you can see those type of things. So I think that's super important. One of the things, one of the disclosures that our showing software has is, because think about this, in this world, people can just take those keys and say, they gave me the keys and I moved in, right? That's what you'd never want to come back and say. So one of the things that we say is you're only a guest, and if you're there for longer than 20 minutes, you'll be considered trespassing and could be open to being arrested. Some version of that. Basically them signing off that we're not giving you possession, we're giving you access short term to show it. So I think that's important, whatever your disclosures are.
I'll be honest, we didn't have, so, obviously we do a lot more south side, southeast side, suburbs, et cetera, C and D class areas. And I think that, so we were using it and then we stopped, and it's something that's always been on the table again. But the issue you thought we would have had isn't the issue. We didn't really have too bad of an issue with squatters or anything like that. And to be truth be told, we have issues with squatters without self-showing. So I think the squatters see it online or know that a property's vacant, and they might break in if it's in an area that's going to be broken into. I don't think the self-showings necessarily make it a higher likelihood, because they have to give their credit card, they have to give stuff like that. So it's generally speaking, I don't think it adds that risk. The problem we had, and maybe that it's been a few years, so maybe it's gotten better, and that's what I'll ask you, Mark, but winters, we would have stuff freeze up and the batteries go out on us, and like just not, the lockbox is just not open. Have you guys had, we were with Show Mojo for a while, but again, this was a few years ago, so I don't know if they've gotten better or the batteries last longer now.
I haven't had that. I haven't heard, I'm sure my agents in the field have dealt with that, but I haven't heard it to be as big of a problem. I'll tell you this, our bigger problem we have is just your traditional $15 lockbox freezing up. And I think the tip for that, or one thing we've learned over the years, is if you could put that lockbox in a location that does not allow moisture to drip down on it from either open sky or under an awning where it's dripping down, like ultimately you need water to freeze. So And then if you could not put the lockbox like this and be able to have it straight up and down, that's super valuable as well too. But everyday lockbox, we have that problem more so, and that affects our maintenance team as well too. So trying to tuck those away is always before. But as far as Mojo goes, we did not have that experience that I know of, I guess.
Cool.
What do you think on that topic though? I'll tell you a horror story we had. We've been doing showingless self-showing showings for 9 years. And we did have one horror story, and I'll share it here because if anything, it's entertaining. And basically it was a Sunday afternoon. The lady requested the showing, did all the security checks. It was her. She just moved in. She just said, "I'm moving in. I don't give a shit." She got evicted on that Friday from somewhere. Slept in her car on Friday and Saturday, and just said, "I'm desperate. I'm moving in. I got my kids." And called the police, the rural police. This is would have been a couple years ago now. Now for that owner, ultimately it was horrible, and we ended up covering a lot of the costs for them. But when we look at it as a company, it's like, all right, if we have to cover $4,000, $5,000 of costs every 10 years, or even if it happened once every few years, like risk versus reward, I guess in that, and ultimately it's in all of our other clients where it does work out to really get stuff rented faster. Because here's the thing, a lot of people just want to see things on Saturday afternoon at 3, and your showing agent showed this morning at 10, and they're already doing their thing for the day. That is kind of where that is a lot of what we've experienced.
If you we'll ask it, we got a follow-up question, and I'll give you my one story that we had. But he's asking, have you guys used any success with the quick set electronic types that generate the one-time code instead of a key?
So for us, it's more valuable on the vendor side. If you need somebody to come in there at any time, but that I would never trust for like a tenant, because for us, for our showing software through Mojo, like it does the background check. I believe they have to put a credit card in. They have to have some sort of, they actually have multiple different ways of verification. They have to take a picture that matches their ID. So they have to jump through a few hoops there. But as far as the QuickSet goes, we're big fans of QuickSet. So we have QuickSet as part of our master system. And I explained that to you if you're guys interested. But as far as the one-time code, that makes you nervous. Don't get me wrong. As a real estate agent for 2 decades, you get those moments where like, shit, I'm not going to make it. I'll just give you the code. But at that point, that person's expecting to meet you there. And there's not probably some devious intent there. So, that could work in that situation, or that could work in a combo situation where you just can't make it on time.
Yeah, I mean, we use QuickSet smart keys, but we don't use electronic ones. That's more of a cost thing. I think that I don't know if I'd be able to convince my owners to switch it and transition them over to having QuickSet, to having the electronic locks in general. But yeah, I think that's probably more so. The cost thing is still a little bit higher than a regular lock set. So we did have one person move in when we had our journey with Show Mojo, and we actually luckily, unluckily, I don't know, but it was a scammer. This is one where a scammer found someone to scam and got them to move in and pay them rent. It was a younger lady, and luckily we somehow can let her know that she was being scammed and that the guy stole her money, and got her to go to the police station with us to file a police report that the guy stole her money, which then basically made sure that the police knew that she did not have a lease, because she went and filed a police report that she doesn't live there, or doesn't have the rights to live there. So we got her out in one day without any huge cost. That was a very lucky situation, I guess, that we've been able to run into. So my hope was that, and we won't go too deep into this, because I think this has been the theme of our show, but we won't go into squatters too much. But hopefully, if that law ever gets figured out properly, we won't. I think that there won't really be a downside of using these type of locks and using the self-showing systems.
I think I think the big scam that we're all at risk at, whether using it happens more around the self-showing, is the person that's not even local, they might be somewhere else in the world even, throws up that ad that's just almost a duplicate of your ad, but it's not your ad. And the contact
Mhm.
number is this scammer that's somewhere else in the world. That scammer says, "Hey, I'm going to meet you at the property, and or here's how you set up the showing." They give you your showing instructions, which you then are legitimately that tenant potential applicant legitimately enters information. They are real. They pass the security check. They show
Mhm.
up. They have to check in. They're within the geo. It's a geo. What's the right word I'm looking for? Like they're within the range of the box.
Yeah, it uses the GPS to make sure they're at the house when they get
Yeah,
the thing. Yep.
exactly.
Yep.
And then they go in and then they text back that person, the scammer, and they say, "I love the place." And that scammer says, "Perfect. You want to take off the market? Send me X amount of dollars right now." That's the one. That's a scam we get a
That's
couple times a
exactly
year.
what happened to this girl. It's a shame too because the scammer would make a damn good leasing agent. They actually follow up, which is something I just had to have a talk with one of our newer agents about. Like you need, like, yes, you did the showing, but you need to follow up. You need to like, all right, you flying? What's going on? Get the money in. So they'd be good leasing agents. Unfortunately, chose the wrong career.
Well, I think the one way you can protect yourself, it's so funny you say that. Most criminals would make amazing, legitimate business entrepreneurs. So, but the in that scenario, the best thing you could do as a landlord. So if you are doing self showings, even if you're not doing self showings, maybe you're working with another realtor, and your realtor has other people coming through. That could be that's a problem. Anyone can get exposed to these scams. But what we do is we put right on the front door, and then we put in the kitchen. We put multiple different places. We have a bunch of printed out. The agents run around with tape, and it basically says like, if you did not, it basically says if you saw this on Craigslist or if you saw this somewhere else, if you didn't see this anywhere, or you didn't talk to somebody at this phone number, then you've been ripped off. Call this number to get legitimate access to or whatever. So if you put those, now the scammer never sees those, and then all of a sudden that's your first thing that eludes the person that's going through that they might be getting scammed. So having some sort of notice of like call it if you yeah, just some sort of like red flag. Like if you didn't come through this website or you didn't schedule here or you talked to anyone other than these 5 names, that then you're being ripped off. That's kind of the message.
Yeah, that's smart. One last top comment on criminals being good employees. But have you ever read the first Freakonomics?
Yeah, yeah.
If not, if anyone hasn't, it's great. It's great, but it dives into the Chicago gang scene. It's a UFC professor that wrote it and dives into the gangs and how they structure their business. And a lot of these gangs are better business runners than a lot of small business owners. It's crazy.
Well, have you read Gang Member for a Day?
You know what? I was trying to look up the Freakonomics. I couldn't remember Freakonomics. So I just Googled it and tried to put that, or like put a gang book about gang and business or whatever, and that just popped up. So I haven't read it yet, but it looks interesting.
Amazing book. So the guy that wrote the book, he went to University of Chicago. He was friends with all the Freakonomics guys. Like he's one of their buddies. He's the fourth guy or whatever. And he went to University of Chicago, and his whatever big thing for his junior year was to go to he explored gangs. So he went and hung out with the ones over there in Bronzeville. The buildings have been torn down, Lake Park Homes or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
they tore that down. And everyone moves over to Robert Taylor Homes over there on State Street. And he hung out with basically, I believe how it translates the GDs, the head
Mm-hmm.
GD guy in that part of the city for 2 years. He slept over there. He saw everything, and basically the head GD guy took him under his wing. And then the book ends basically where Parkway Gardens gets torn down, and everyone kind of scatters. The head guy of the book goes down to Pullman and starts running his operation down there. But man, amazing book. Like I've listened to it twice. I've read it once, listened to it twice.
I got an Audible credit, so that'll be what I download.
Oh, it's great. It's
Uh,
so entertaining too. And you know, you put together, I'm big on Chicago because it's I love Chicago books like references or
yeah.
when they film stuff here because you can see, oh man, I managed property on that block. Like I love all of that. So one other book I'll throw out there, Tom Shellcross, my podcast co-host, he threw this out there. I'm hooked. Like I'm about an hour into it and I keep getting interrupted by having to come to work. But American Icon Kingpin,
Hmm.
Nick, uh, Silk Road. Have you ever heard that website, the Silk Road, where you can buy and sell drugs on it? It all started with a guy here in Chicago.
Nice.
So I'm Nick Bilton or whatever is the author, but
I can't think of the guy's name. There's this guy that gives tours of, like, the South Side of Chicago. Awesome guy. If I think about it, I'll post it or whatever. But he's got a TikTok and he's talking about it. And I'm a big Capone guy too. I like researching him and watching all that stuff from the 20s. Do you know that the reason we have expiration dates on milk is because Capone forced Illinois Senate to do it, like all their, like to make it happen, because his niece got sick from drinking spoiled milk that
I
she
did
didn't
not
know was
know that.
spoiled.
I did not know that.
Like, Chicago has a lot of weird history. It's an amazing place, but it's a lot of weird history.
I tried buying Capone's house on 72nd 100 blocks. It's 7222, I think, South Prairie. It was his. He had a two flat there. And I tried negotiating a short sale back in 2013, 14. And then Ryan Smith actually had to come on the market a few years ago and ended up selling for like 230 or
It came back
240.
up a couple years ago. I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, it sold for a hell of a lot more than I was trying to pay for on this short sale, which makes me. I was trying to get it like for 60 grand, and man, I wish I would have. That was just been a cool thing to own. So
One of my clients, this is the coolest property inspection I ever did. One of my clients was looking at I think it was like a 12 unit or 14 unit building in Maywood. And the top part is all just, SRO apartments, basically like one bedrooms or studios. But the bottom basement was Capone's, like, area that they did things or whatever. So it had like the closed off tunnels. You could see where Capone's tunnels went when he had to run from the police. You could see like the rooms that they used as jail cells for their enemies. It's a crazy building that I would love to take some some ghost hunting equipment to, but like there's stories there that are just crazy.
if you go into just south of Chinatown, where they call that Taste of Italy, or I'm sorry, I butchered that. Where they call that little neighborhood there, like 26th and um, yeah, Ashland over there.
Westernish.
What do they call it?
Little like
Little
Taste of Italy would
it's
be
like little
26
Italy
and
over there.
Western, so you're a little
Yeah, yeah.
awkward. Yeah,
Yep, right over there. So over there,
yeah.
we managed a few properties on 26th Street. Get this, all the garages. Think about your traditional alley. All those garages have basements.
Wow.
Yes, and that's. I mean, it's still call it a mob reflecting neighborhood. You got some old school guys there in that neighborhood still, but
Yeah.
that was back from they were making booze down in the basements of these garages. That's the only place in the city I've ever seen that blows my mind. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, no, there's Chicago used to have a bunch of tunnels. My grammar school, so I went to school on the southwest side to Pasture Elementary, which is on like 59th and Costner. And it actually had, so you may not know this, but I'm sure you've heard of Fort City before, the mall that is probably
Yeah.
closing soon, if not already closed. But it originally was a bomb manufacturer. That's why it's such a big complex for World War I or World War II. But they actually have an underground tunnel that went from my grammar school, just in case we ever got nuked or whatever happened, to run all the kids to the shelter at Fort City. Um, I would not want to have to walk that whole thing. That sounds crazy, but I guess it's better than the alternative. But that Chicago is built with a lot of these tunnels that just don't exist anymore, but the structure's still there ish. Like, it'd probably be scary as hell to go down there, but it's still there.
Ah, that's awesome. That's awesome. What else? What else are you working on this week?
Not much, but it is so the one thing I did pull up to do if we had time, and I think it'll be fun. So it's Lunar New Year's. I don't know if you Chinese New Year's or if you follow any of that.
I don't.
I had Gemini make a few true or false questions for you on Feng Shui of house layouts for for landlords. So I'm curious how many of these you'll get.
All right.
So true or false? In Feng Shui, client home, the front door should align directly with the back door to allow energy to flow quickly through the house.
I would say that's true.
It's actually false. They don't. You're not supposed to have any exiting doors face each other because the good energy can come in and exit too quickly. Then.
Oh, I could have I thought that, but I'm like, no, that's too obvious. Okay. What else?
Placing a mirror directly facing the bed is considered bad feng shui. I'm going to say that wrong 100 times probably, because it's thought to bounce the energy and disturb sleep.
True.
Yep, it is true. All
You're
right,
trying
number
to say
three.
feng shui, right?
Yeah, feng shui. Yeah, I don't know why I made up this whole thing and I didn't practice saying the word that I say 100 times that I've said 100 times and now I can't say it.
It sounded German. You're making it sound German, not Chinese.
I do have more German in me than Chinese, so that
All
makes
right, that's
sense.
why that makes sense.
Let's see. All right. In a kitchen layout, the stove and the sink should be placed directly next to each other to create a balance of elements.
True.
It's false. This is called a clash of elements. Ideally, there should be a wooden element like a cutting board or a plant or a physical gap between the stove and sink. Also, one other thing that I looked up that's not in these questions, but along the same line, they shouldn't face each other either, because then they're clashing as well. So if your stove faces your fridge, that could be bad luck. All right, and then the last, I'll give you one more. Bathroom should ideally be located in the center of the home to ensure the water element nourishes the entire house.
It sounds very feng shui-ish. I go with true.
False. The center of the home is the heart. Since bathrooms involve drainage, placing one in the center is thought to drain the home's energy and wealth.
Wow.
So some interesting beliefs, which I mean, I guess it depends on the market you're in, but there are, I've ran into quite a few people in my career selling houses that believe enough in it where we'll walk in and they'll be like, no, and then walk out. So it's a good knowledge to have.
I couldn't tell you who it was or what religion or what nationality it was, but I remember I worked with a buyer one time where the front, I actually was a commercial guy. The front of the business had to face the east. So I don't remember if that was Indian or Muslim. I'm not sure. So no offense to anybody, but I remember that was a struggle, and that was before Google Maps or Google
Yeah,
where you can pull it up.
yeah,
so
yeah, the other one I think everyone's familiar with is like hotels don't have 13th floors in a lot of places like Vegas and stuff like that because it's bad luck. So I don't manage any high rises, but
I was born on Friday the 13th, so I take 13 is good luck to me. So my dad wanted to name me Michael or Jason, and my mom did not want that. So when you're talking about the mirror, it made me think of Candyman. Like I was telling my kids the other day that Candyman was filmed in Chicago.
Yep, in the we're going back to projects in the book. So that was taped in why can't I think of the name? What town? What
was it Cabrini?
Yeah, it was in Cabrini, which if you know the history of that was one of the slums or the Section 8 housing complexes that had a lot of issues. Cabrini, this was a few years ago I read this. I don't know if it stands true, but it had the most new residents making $1 million or more in the country for a neighborhood.
Really?
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit since they knocked the projects down. It's one of the highest grossing neighborhoods in the country.
Well, they had just recently, I saw this on the news, I think over the weekend, there's a church that was on the Cabrini Green property that was converted to $1 million condos. Like that's kind of crazy.
Yep.
We had on the podcast, I can't find it right now, but we had a Loyola professor that wrote a book on really the fall of really had to start in the fall, the whole history of Cabrini Green, which was pretty interesting. Maybe I could find that, throw that into the notes where this gets posted later. Brad Hunt. Yeah, this is it right here. But yeah, it was super interesting. I love understanding everything about just about the whole history of a lot of that is just like they had such good intention, but they just totally the outcome was just totally flawed.
Yeah, no, it was, and
for the management, I guess too.
It's another reason for the government to, the less the government's involved, the better. Generally speaking, with a lot of things, that's and it's really the start of the CHA vouchers that we have now, where a tenant can come to an owner and an owner can get CHA money. That wasn't around back then, at least not to the degree that it is now. So the housing choice voucher, that's what it's called. The housing choice voucher became just because of that failure. So it's awesome history. And it's another lesson with, at least Chicago. And I think a lot of places, like a lot of these neighborhoods that were D-class neighborhoods in the 80s or 90s are now B or A-class neighborhoods. So if you hold on to things long enough, the market starts to switch and change. And that's where a lot of the real money's made is, holding on to something for 20 years as the neighborhood changes.
Yeah, Uptown, Lincoln Park, Lakeview was not that nice in 1985.
Now, my thing is, I used to work for Cal Realty, which their office is on Ashland, just north of Fullerton, and the next block over was they just knocked it down like 3 or 4 years ago, but it was the house from Urkel. What was it? Family Matters. Which I'm like, I don't think a police officer's salary is going to buy a house in Lincoln Park anytime now. So you could think that's just a reminder of the difference in the early '90s that a TV show police officer was affording a single family home in Lincoln Park.
Friday night at 7:30. That's when it was on ABC7. So I do remember that. But all right, cool, man. Any final parting ways for our listeners or for other Chicago landlords out there going into middle February?
Nothing offhand. I'm glad you guys watch. We're gonna try to do this every week, so be on the lookout for on the Facebook page, on the YouTube page to see when we're scheduling it next. And also, I'll drop in the comments. Like I said, that podcast with Dorian. If you guys have any insurance questions, it was a great interview. For you guys to review there.
We're not going to try. We're gonna do it. So every week, 1:15 Central, unless me or Tim schedule screwed up. So I was supposed to go to Mexico this week, and that fell through. And my plan was to bring a microphone and a computer, so I didn't break our record. So, but I didn't have to do that. Well, unfortunately, I didn't have to do that, and here I am in the studio still. But yeah, no. One final part is I'll share this with everybody. It's mid-February. If you're listening to this, or even if you're listening to this 2 weeks from now, it's still March. If you have tenants that are behind in rent, or you're trying to help them get ahead, they're going to be getting their tax refund check here anytime soon. So I know, Tim, you can speak to this. If you're trying to collect or help a tenant get back on track, put that into the conversation. Be like, hey, you're going to get paid this, and work with your tenant to get a piece of that to help them catch up and maybe even stay ahead. I know some of our team is usually encouraging them, like, hey, listen, so you don't have to deal with me. Why don't you just throw another $500 towards March rent? That way, you're that farther ahead, and then you can take that pressure off you. So.
And here's an example that's worked for us on that sort of thinking outside the box along that line. I'll just jump on the train there. If you have that tenant that's always paying on the 7th or the 8th, and all of a sudden they get a big $5,000, $10,000 return, whatever that is, if they can pay a month, if they can just throw an extra month of rent on top, now every time they pay on the 7th or 8th, they're 20 days early instead of 7 days late. Your cash flow changes completely. They're not paying late fees anymore. They're happy. It is something, especially these tenants that are consistently late, to get them back on track, to get them a month ahead, and then still have them pay every month on the 8th or whatever, because that's how their job pays them, or the 15th or whatever that is. It's a huge advantage to your delinquency rate.
All right. Love it. Love closing it out. Tim, thank you. Listeners, if anybody is interested in property management or has any conversation you want to have offline, you have Tim at chicagostylemanagement.com, or me. You could find me on Instagram at Mark Ainley, REI, or at my website, gcrealtyinc.com. Love to talk to anybody, any way I can help or share our resources. Tim will do the same. We're here for you. Tune in next week and share us with a friend. Thank you, guys.
How you going, guys?